speak up. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Haley Catton, and I'm a fairly new cereal crop entomologist here at Ag Canada in Lethbridge. So I started just last April. And we already have the lab up and going. So I have 2 technicians now, 5 students. So we went kind of from 0 people to 7 people and pretty quickly within a year. And we have 2 projects rolling around or going on right now that I would like to just chat with you about because they're insects that are relevant to this production area in wheat. First one I want to talk about is called Cirie leaf beetle. This is a pest insect. Who's heard of Cirie leaf beetle before? Yeah, most people probably, hey, like this is new to Alberta since 2005, so coming up from the US. And I just took over this file from Hector Carcamo last year. And so before I came along, he's been doing research on the Cirie leaf beetle life cycle and impacts and beneficial insects. So there is a Biocontrol Wasp that Hector's released to start controlling Cirie leaf beetle, and we think that that wasp is probably the reason why we are not finding too much Cirie leaf beetle around Lethbridge this year or last year. So that's great for producers, not so great when you're me and you're trying to research this insect and you can't find it. So the new project that I'm working on is about exploring the value in terms of dollars of these beneficial insects. So a lot of times we recommend to producers, we say, hey, try not to spray, think of your beneficials, which is a great concept, right? But how do you make a decision as a producer when you don't know how much those beneficials are worth? So that's the kind of thing that I'm trying to work on in this project. So at the Ag Canada site, we have a caged experiment going on where we have a bunch of 1 by 1 meter cages on a field of wheat, and we're adding Cirie leaf beetles to some of those cages. We're adding the Biocontrol Wasp with the beetles to some cages, and we're also adding what we call generalist predators. So things that will eat anything. So spiders, ground beetles, lady beetles. And we're going to so we're adding all these different levels of insects and comparing the yields in these cages. So if we see a yield difference, we'll be able to say, hey, these beneficials were worth this much money. And that's, I hope, will be helpful information to producers when they make their decisions on how to manage insect pests in their crops. Because there's lots of insects out there. So we have a couple samples. Oh, I just pick it up for a second. Oh, and before I continue too, I'd like to introduce my technician, David Shack. He's kind of the person who does the day-to-day operations of the lab, so he knows a lot about what we're doing here. He can answer questions as well. And Cheryl Shell is back there. She is our T. Julis expert. That's the biocontrol agent that we're going to pass around. All right, so what we have here is a tray of an assortment of different kinds of insects, mostly beneficial insects that you'll find in your fields. So sometimes you may be going out there and you see these things, but maybe you don't know what they are or what they do. So there's a variety of spiders here, different kinds of spiders. There's ground beetles, which if anybody is on Twitter, you can learn about beneficial insects, including ground beetles at fieldheroes.com. We also have the Biocontrol insect for Cirie leaf beetle, which is the tiniest little wasp. Like, you have to see this. This wasp will lay its eggs in the larva of the Cirie leaf beetle and eat them from the inside out. So they're really tiny. So I would like you to take a look at those. We also have various piercing and sucking insects. And we have, well, I thought we had adult Cirie leaf beetles. Maybe we don't, eh? Oh yeah, okay. So we also have adult Cirie leaf beetles if you don't know what they look like. So David and maybe Cheryl can come around and bring these around and show you what they look like. And feel free to pick them up, take a look, and I'll keep talking. Can you do both? Or Cheryl's coming. Brian.
Somebody who's going to release that wasp into their field.
Yes?
And they've seen some damage and they see the Cirie leaf beetles there. Is that too late, or should they release them next spring? Or when?
Well, it makes sense to release them when you see the larvae because the wasps need the larvae to live. But you may not see the effects until the next year. So the idea with the parasitic wasps is that they reduce the population levels of Cirie leaf beetle. And we actually, we get samples sent in from different fields in different provinces and we dissect them. Cheryl cuts the larva, Cirie leaf beetle larva up to see if they're parasitized. Lots of times we see greater than 50% parasitism. So these wasps are extremely effective. Maybe too effective. Two. Yeah, but you'll have the larva around for months because the adults will keep laying eggs for a couple months. So, so this is one of our best examples of what we call biocontrol. So using living things to kill pest insects on the prairies. So So that's one thing I want to talk about, and I hope that everybody takes a look at the specimens we have. The second thing is our wireworm project. So I know a lot of people have problems with wireworms. It's quite the problematic pest. We know wireworms are the larval stage of the click beetle, and the larva can eat many different crops, and they can live under the soil for like 5 years. So pretty darn big problem. So we are doing a project where we're comparing different types of crop rotations with canola or no canola, and seeing if that affects what this year's wireworm populations are like. So very important. I'm looking for field sites for next year. So if anybody has a wireworm problem, and you want to be, if you're interested in letting us come on your land and trap insects all summer, please approach me or find me on Twitter or send me an email. I'll be putting calls out again and again. So I just want you to know that that program is ongoing, and we're learning a lot. So are there any questions about Cirie leaf beetle or wireworms before we pass on to Scott?
Did I hear that right? You said they're in the soil for up to 5 years?
Oh, longer sometimes, 3 to 5, sometimes 7, sometimes longer. So, and they can take a whole year off. So wireworms is not one species. Wireworms is a complex of about 20 species. And some of them have different behaviors. Some of them can just bury down in the soil for a whole year without eating and just go dormant. So they're a really challenging pest. And chemical options are not the best right now for control. So we're trying to figure out their life cycles and trying to find their Achilles heel, basically. I like to say that we try to hack insect life cycles, you know, like life hacking, but insect hacking. So that's what we're trying to do.
Haley, I had a neighbor say to me that his dual treatment didn't work on his wireworms. Is that possible? Or?
Yeah, so the question is do seed treatments work on wireworms? And you know, I've heard mixed results. Some people say it works like a charm, and I've talked to a few people that say it's working less and less.
And I have a little theory about that. Having come from the north too, I wonder if it's more of where you're located, because down here in the south I hear producers saying they don't like the results of the insecticide component on their seed treatment. It just makes them get sick and go sleepy.
Yeah.
Up in the piece where I used it in order to get away from my research plots, and here I am doing 1,000 kernel plant counts and everything, and I got these darn things affecting it, doing my research. Ever since I started using the insecticide component, they're gone. Not a problem. And other producers have told me the same story. And that, I think, is because it's shorter season while the plant's that small that you get a big problem from them, right? Because the little plants are the ones that are really the most hit, right? Would you say with that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, whereas down here, it's a little bit longer window of opportunity for them. And so the insecticide might poop out. Also, you got heat down here too. It's a lot warmer.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Down here where it doesn't poop out up there.
So it doesn't always work. It's not a bulletproof solution.
This is a theory. It's a clear theory.
Yeah.
A little bit better in evolution, but it's a clear theory. You know.
Yeah, so if you have wireworms or if you have a Cirie leaf beetle, we'd love to do a test in your field next year. We're trying to find an economic threshold for Cirie leaf beetle because we see people spraying for it when they see 1 or 2. And we don't think they do enough damage to warrant that, but we need the data to actually show that. So we're trying to put dollar values to all these insect levels. So, you know, try to speak the language of the producer, right? So they can make good decisions.